And I saw, and behold, a tree in the midst of the earth, and the height thereof was great. The tree grew and was strong, and the height thereof reached unto heaven, and the sight thereof to the ends of all the earth. The leaves thereof were fair, and the fruit thereof was much, and in it was meat for all. The beasts of the field had shadows under it, and the fowls of the heaven dwelt in the boughs thereof, and all flesh was fed of it. I saw in the visions of my head upon my bed, and behold, a watcher and an holy one came down from heaven, and he cried aloud, and said thus, Hew down the tree, and cut off his branches, shake off his leaves, and scatter his fruit. Let the beasts get away from under it, and the fowls from his branches. Nevertheless, leave the stump of his roots in the earth, even with the band of iron and brass, in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven. And let his portion be with the beasts in the grass of the earth. Let his heart be changed from man's, and let a beast's heart be given unto him, and let 7 times pass over him.
God is using me. God is using me to show off, I believe. He God is similar to...
He's saying he wanted the loudest voice and the one who made the most noise to make the most impact?
Yeah, he wanted to show off. He's like, now let me take this Nebuchadnezzar type character.
And the king spake and said, Is not this great Babylon, that I have built for the house of the kingdom by the might of my power, and for the honor of my majesty?
Nebuchadnezzar was the king, or is it Babylon? Nebuchadnezzar was the king of Babylon, and he looked at his entire kingdom and said, I did this. And God said, oh, for real, you did this? Sounds kind of similar, right? I'm standing on the tip of the mountain talking about Jesus, saying,
That's right.
I did this.
I'm a God.
That I'm a God. I am a God. Everybody says, who does he think he is? I just told you who I thought I was, a God. I just told you. That's who I think I am.
I felt like I was the greatest in 8th grade, and I was far from having a record out.
I'm a fan, period. I'm a fan of really great stuff. So, by the fact that I'm really great, by default, I'm a fan of myself. Also, how much more do you want from me?
More.
How much more successful do you want me to be?
More successful.
How many records can my records break?
More records.
But I'm the best. In fact, I'm scared all the time.
Scared of what?
Scared of failure, scared of not creating something that is absolutely, I guess I'm not scared of not creating something great. I know I'm gonna do that. I'm standing up and I'm telling you, I am Warhol. I am the #1 most impactful artist of our generation. I am Shakespeare in the flesh. Walt Disney, Nike, Google. Now who's gonna be the Medici family and stand up and let me create more? Rap the new rock and roll. We culture. Rap is the new rock and roll. We the rock stars. We the real rock stars, and I'm the biggest of all of them.
Well, it's the perfect gift for someone who worships Kanye West. There is now a version of the Bible for sale on Etsy called the Book of Jesus. It's a remix on the Book of Genesis, where every time God is mentioned, the book replaces it with Kanye. The first passage reads, In the beginning, Kanye created the heaven and the earth.
And while the word was in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from heaven saying, O King Nebuchadnezzar, to thee it is spoken, the kingdom is departed from thee, and they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field.
This morning, new details are emerging about Kanye West's alleged mental state as he was rushed to the hospital. Heard on this fire department dispatch call obtained by TMZ.
Rescue 41, psychiatric emergency, Morrill Avenue.
The 911 call came in around 1:20 p.m. on Monday after West was reportedly acting erratically. Paramedics and the Los Angeles Fire Department rushed to the Hollywood home of his personal trainer, where, according to TMZ, officials spoke with West for 90 minutes before following protocol for a psychiatric patient, restraining him and taking him to UCLA Medical Center for an evaluation.
Appreciate you watching. All right, so Kanye West, as we all have heard by now, was hospitalized yesterday after sources say he was, restrained on what they call a 5150, which they say that's some sort of alleged nervous breakdown, psychiatric look-see. Yeah.
And at the end of the days, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted up mine eyes unto heaven, and mine understanding returned unto me. And I blessed the Most High, and I praised and honored him that liveth forever, whose dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom is from generations to generations. Now this is where Kanye meets a fork in the road. You see, now that Kanye is freed from the mental breakdown, Kanye has a choice to fulfill the typology of Nebuchadnezzar or the typology of Belshazzar, who is the son of Nebuchadnezzar. Now let's look at these two individuals. Now we see here that both of them had worship services. Let's look at the worship service of Nebuchadnezzar. It says in Daniel 3:1 that Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold, and he gathered together the princes, the governors, and the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the province. At what time ye shall hear the sound of the cornets, and all kinds of different sounds and music, ye shall fall down and worship the golden image. And the king ordered the music to be played, and all the people obeyed the king and bowed to this false idol, except for 3 young men. They stood fast for truth and for God. They didn't keep the command of a worldly king, they kept the command of a king of kings. They kept the law of God, and in that law, it says, thou shalt not worship any other gods. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down bound into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished, and rose up in haste, and spake, and said unto the counselors, did not we cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said unto the king, true, O king. He answered and said, lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt. And the form of the 4th is like the Son of Man. Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the mouth of the burning fire, and spake and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, ye servants of the Most High God, come forth, and come hither. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth of the midst of the fire. And the princes and governors and captains and the king's counselors, being gathered together, saw these men, upon whose bodies the fire had no power, nor was a hair on their head singed, neither was their coats changed, nor the smell of fire had passed on them. Then Nebuchadnezzar spake, and said, blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angels, and delivered his servants that trusted in him, and have changed the king's word, and yielded their bodies, that they might not serve, nor worship any god, except their own God. Therefore, I make a decree that every people, nation, and language, which speak anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill, because there is no other God that can deliver after this sort. Nebuchadnezzar is humbled by God. He learns his lesson. He acknowledges the ultimate kingship of the God of Israel, and is restored to his throne. Belshazzar, in contrast, learns nothing from Nebuchadnezzar's example, blasphemes against God, and his kingdom is given to others. Now let's look at the worship service of Belshazzar. In Daniel 5:1 it says that Belshazzar, the king, made a great feast to 1,000 of his lords, and drank wine before the thousands. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold, silver, and brass, of iron and wood, and of stone. Now as King Belshazzar holds a great feast for thousands of his lords, and commands that the temple vessels from Jerusalem be brought in so that they can drink from them. But as the Babylonians drank, a hand appears and writes on the wall. Belshazzar calls his magicians and wise men to interpret the writing, but they are unable even to read them. The queen advises Belshazzar to send for Daniel, a renowned for his wisdom. Daniel is brought in, and the king offers to him third in rank in the kingdom if he can interpret the writing. Daniel declines his honor, but agrees to the request. He reminds Belshazzar that Nebuchadnezzar's greatness was a gift from God, and that when he became arrogant, God threw him down until he learned humility. The Most High God has sovereignty over the kingdom of mortals, and sets over it whomever he will. Belshazzar has drunk from the vessels of God's temple and praises his idols, but he has not given honor to God. And so God sent this hand and wrote these words. And Daniel reads the words, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin, and interprets them for the king. Mene, God has numbered the days of your kingdom and brought it to an end. Tekel, you have been weighed and found wanting. Perez, your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Then Belshazzar gave the command, and Daniel was clothed in purple, and a chain of gold was put around his neck. And a proclamation was made that he should rank third in the kingdom. And that very night, Belshazzar, the Chaldean, the Babylonian king, was killed, and Darius the Mede received his kingdom. Nebuchadnezzar and Belshazzar were both mighty men. Both had power to gather people to worship through music. But one learned about the true God of heaven, the true King of kings, and he changed his life and stopped worshiping false idols. And Belshazzar knew the truth, and he changed not. And Belshazzar lost his eternal life. Now I'm amazed of Kanye's life. Here you have a mighty man of our time, a man that was like a god, and exalted himself as God, and was made, just like Nebuchadnezzar, to have a heart of a beast, and to go insane. Here you have a mighty man that can gather people to worship through music. Now what is Kanye's false idol?
Yeah, well, that's the Kanye that we all know, right? He's the chart-topping hip-hop artist with 21 Grammys to his name, now making headlines for a growing movement known as Kanye's Sunday Service, a fusion of gospel, rap, and God, drawing believers and non-believers to weekly sermons. But he wrote this song that he's, getting some Snickers called "Closed on Sunday," and it has the Chick-fil-A line in it. Listen to this.
Close on Sunday. You my Chick-fil-A. Hold the selfies. Put the gram away. Get your family. Y'all hold hands and pray. Raise our sons. Train them in the faith. Through temptations. Make sure they're wide awake. Follow Jesus. Listen and obey.
That's a pretty powerful message.
Yeah, and he mentioned something during this whole event, this Sunday, that how this all originated. And he was in the hospital. He admitted himself for exhaustion. He had this huge, big deal that just kind of fell apart. And then his wife, Kim Kardashian, had just been robbed in a hotel room in Paris. His life was kind of a disaster. And he felt called to start a church. And then he went to his aides and they're like, no, you can't start a church. You're not a pastor. And so he said, oh, you're right. So let's do something else. And he's created this experience. And I don't think it's a substitute for church. I went to Mass that morning before I went to his service. But I think it could be a catalyst for people, especially young people. That guy who we interviewed, he said he was 17 years old. He had never been to church in his entire life. And it was because of a Kanye West event that he was re-examining his life. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, he's saying, put down your phones, put down Instagram, take Sunday to be with your family and hold your hands and pray. I think it's fascinating. We'll see where it goes. Thank you for going out there and doing it. It's a great piece that you did.
Kanye is gathering the people to worship God on the false Sabbath day. Now Jesus says in John 14:15, "If you love me, keep my commandments. At that day ye shall know that I am in my Father, and ye in me, and I in you. He that hath my commandments, and keepeth them, he it is that loveth me. And he that loveth me shall be loved of my Father, and I will love him, and will manifest myself to him." Now what commandments is Jesus referring to? He's referring to his Father's commandments, the 10 commandments. And in those 10 commandments is found the 4th commandment in Exodus 20, verse 8. It says, "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor, and do all thy work. But the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work. Your sons, your daughters, your manservants, your maidservants, thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the 7th day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the 7th day, and hallowed it." This is biblical. This is coming straight from the Bible. So what happened? Why is it that the whole world, the whole Protestant nation, worships on Sunday? Now, to answer this question, let's ask the ones that changed it. The Protestants accept Sunday rather than Saturday as the day for public worship after the Catholic Church had made the change. But the Protestant mind does not seem to realize that in accepting the Bible, in observing the Sunday, they are accepting the authority of the spokesman for the Church, the Pope. Had she not such power, she could not have done that in which all modern religionists agree with her. She could not have substituted the observance of Sunday, the first day of the week, for the observance of Saturday, the 7th day, a change for which there is no scriptural authority. And right now, like Nebuchadnezzar, the world is trying to pass laws to enforce the whole world to bow to this false idol. And like the decree that Nebuchadnezzar made, the one that declares that if you do not bow to the golden image, you will be killed. This same decree will come from the kings of the world in our modern time. The Bible actually tells us what will happen to those that will obey God's commands rather than man's. It says in Revelation 13:16, "He causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark on their right hand or in their forehead, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name." The governments of the world are going to force us to get a chip in the hand. Now this is very important to understand. The chip is not the mark of the beast. The chip is just a way to enforce the no buying and no selling prophecy. If you do not obey Sunday laws, they will shut off your chip and you will be unable to buy and sell.
When Elias Brotberger goes to work, he doesn't need ID. And he doesn't need money. In fact, much of what he needs to get through the day is hidden right there, just below the surface, in his hand.
Like to touch it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, weird. Yeah, it's like a grain of rice.
Yeah, a grain of rice.
Embedded in his hand is a microchip that serves as his keys, his ID, and his wallet.
Yeah, it's all in chip, so I use it like to get around the building.
Buy snacks.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's buy some snacks. So I can't open it.
No.
Okay.
So what I need to do is I need to first blip my chip, and it will log me in, and from there I get access to the fridge.
Popular TV shows like Black Mirror have imagined chips as part of a dystopian future.
Install ingrain procedure with local anesthetic and you're good to go.
In Sweden, the microchips are already here.
The microchip implants use the same technology that's in contactless credit cards,
which have made cash pretty much obsolete in Sweden.
No cash.
At this tech fair, a chipping event for those on the cutting edge, merging their hands with this new technology.
I thought it would be fun, right?
The process is simple and swift. A pinch of the skin, and in a matter of seconds, the chip is inserted. The transformation is complete.
Now we know that the Vatican plays a major role in pushing Sunday laws. Can it be? Can it be true that the Pope is the beast in Revelation 13:17? It is commonly understood that certain letters also have values associated with them. Take the Roman numerals for example. The letters V, X, and I have the numeric values associated with them of 5, 10, and 1. But take note, the letters U also registers as the same value as V. For example, in old court buildings, you can see the U and V being used. The spelling of the word court is often spelled C-O-V-R-T. And also in Greek, there are two E's. There's E and E with a line on top of it. You need to use the right E for an accurate calculation. The number that identifies this man is only one of 10 characteristics that identify the Antichrist. Here are some titles of the popes from past and present, and you're going to be astonished that every one of these names equals 666, and it does not matter if it's calculated in Latin or if it's calculated in Greek. As you can see, Bible prophecy is being fulfilled. And my plea to Kanye, and to the princes and governors, and to the captains and judges, the treasurers, the counselors and sheriffs, and to all the rulers of the providence, and to all the people, nations, and tongues, my plea to you is to stand up for truth and to stand fast to the Lord's Sabbath, which is the seventh day. And which is the seventh day? It is Saturday. Stand fast like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And when the Lord comes, he will say, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord."